Hello again, everybody. Today, we've got some more problems. So we've already gone over substitution and graphing as possible ways if we had a system of equation like this. If we wanted to solve it to figure out what x and y are, we can use substitution or graphing. But today we're going to introduce a third method, and I'd say this is probably the most efficient method, but it requires the most number sense. So you guys really you gotta like solve a puzzle here. You really gotta use your brain. Okay, so what is elimination? So when we're doing elimination, we are eliminating. We're eliminating something. What is that something? We're gonna either be eliminating the x or the y. We're eliminating one of our two letters. So we start with this big system here, two equations. Each equation has two letters. We can't really solve that just by looking at it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of either x or y, and then that will give us a short one equation with one letter that we could solve for pretty easily. So how do we do that? Well, we got to think ahead before we start with our first step. So what's going to happen a little later when we're solving this problem is we're going to add these two equations together. We're going to add them like we're in elementary school. We add these two equations together, it's going to leave us with one equation. Well, our goal is that when we add these two equations together, one of the letters is going to disappear. So how do we do that? Well, if we have a letter, let's say we have x, and we're trying to figure out what adds with x to equal 0. And in this case, you could say negative x. What about 2x? If we have a 2x, what adds with 2x to equal 0? And you could say negative 2x. And the same thing is going to keep on going on. So if we have 3x plus negative 3x, that equals 0. So what we're going to have to do, either with x or y, is we're going to have to get something like that. We're going to have a number in one of the equations, or an x, my bad. And on the next equation, we want the opposite version of that number. So if we have a 5, and we want to add it with something, we want to add it with a negative 5. So when we add those two together, they cancel out, it becomes 0. To do this, we just got to use our brain. There's no formula for this. We just have to use our number sense. We have to look at these two equations. And we're trying to figure out, we're first looking at the x's and then the y's, and we're trying to figure out which equation we should manipulate and which letter would be the easiest to get rid of. So I first look at these x's. We have a 5x up here, we have a 10x right here. And instantly in my head, I say, wait, if I multiply 5 by negative 2, this will become a negative 10x, and then if I added that with positive 10x, it equals 0, just like we wanted. So that's an option. Or you could look at your y's and say, we have a positive y here, a negative 7y here. If we multiply this y with a positive 7, it would become 7y. We'd add it with negative 7y, that would also become 0. So there's two different ways we could do this. We could either multiply the top equation by 7, and that would eliminate the y, or we could multiply the top equation by 2, and that would eliminate the x. Either way, you're going to get the same answer, it's just the process might be a little different getting to that answer. So I'd say the easier way would probably be to multiply the top by 2, and when you're doing this, you can't just multiply 5x by negative 2. You have to multiply the entire equation. So we're going to put parentheses around the entire equation, and we're going to multiply everything by a negative 2. So when we distribute this negative 2 in, that means we're going to multiply it with 5x, we're going to multiply it with y, and we're going to multiply it with 9. And so let's do that. Negative 2 times 5x, that's just negative 10x. Negative 2 times y, that's negative 2y. Negative 2 times 9, this whole thing just equals negative 18. And so we didn't touch this bottom equation. We didn't multiply with anything, so we're just going to rewrite it here. So we have 10x minus 7y equals negative 18. So now we do the elimination part. We add these two equations together, and it's going to give us one equation. So this is the magic part right here. This is what's going on right here in this box. We have a negative 10x, and we're adding it with a positive 10x. So what happens? That just equals 0. So this cancels out. The x is gone. And we're left with negative 2y plus negative 7y. That's just negative 9y equals negative 18 plus negative 18 is negative 36. And so just like that, we went from a complicated system to negative 9y equals negative 36. Something complicated that we can't really solve to something we learned about solving in 6th grade. So we just solve for y now. All we have to do is get rid of this negative 9. So we divide both sides by negative 9, and we get our y equals positive 4. But we are not done. We found y, now we need to find x. How do we do that? Well, we just plug in the value we got for y into one of these two equations. And you can choose either equation, you're going to get the same answer. I just try to kind of look at them and see which one seems a little more simple, and I plug it into that one. So we have 5x plus y equals 9 there, somewhat simple equation. And then 10x minus 7y equals negative 18, that's pretty complicated. So I'd avoid plugging into this bottom one. Like I said, you're still going to get the same answer. So I'm going to use the top one. So I'm using the equation 5x plus y equals 9. And I'm going to be using the fact that we know, so that's a comma, we're using the fact that y equals 4. All right, so now I'm just going to replace y right here with a 4. So 5x plus 4 equals 9. And now we just solve for x. We use our inverse operations. So we subtract 4, 5x drops down, these 4's cancel out. We're left with 5x equals 9 minus 4 is 5. We got to divide now to get rid of that 5, so we divide everything by 5. And we get x equals 5 divided by 5, which is just 1. Now we got to write this as a coordinate. So our coordinate is x comma y. So our coordinate is 1, 4. And that, ladies and gentlemen,